iZombie Season 3, Episode 2, Zombie Knows Best. I think this was a pretty good episode. I think they did a good job with the comedy in this, of course, with, Major and Liv as the daughter-father duo with the brains. We got a little bit of insight into what's going to be happening with the overarching story, especially in the ending. I thought that was very interesting as to what they were leading into, with lots of people actually knowing about zombies. But they did a really good job with the emotional element of Clive, which I thought was really well done. It starts off, which we find out by the end, we actually started at the end of the episode, and so he's being kind of, not exactly interrogated, but he's being questioned by Katana, I believe the guy's name is. And so we start having these flashbacks where, we see what he was doing with, during his time undercover, where he first meets Wally and stuff, and how he first finds out about Wally's family and how there are issues between, his mother and his father, who beats his mother. And I like the way they did that. They did a lot of good moments with Clive where he's just in a lot of different situations. He's kind of having his own little flashes as if he had some brains. And I thought it was really good. Like, I like the way they introduced the idea. And, they go through how the relationship built up. And I love the way they did it, how, of course, he's making a sandwich or whatever, and he hears the screaming, and of course something goes wrong. And I like the way they did it where, of course, the guy is trying to be like, oh, nothing happened or whatever. And when they find out he's a cop, Wally comes in, he's like, you're a cop, and he instantly said, Dad hit Mom. And it was like, wow, that was actually a really cool way to do that, where it wasn't, and it seemed like it was because he only hit his mom, but he never, like, Wally was never hit himself. And it seemed like, in most situations when you see it on TV, it's always like everyone's scared because, of course, that hurts everybody. And I think it was different in this case. And so he was like, you're a cop, boom, Dad hit Mom, and that was all he needed. And of course, the guy tried to swing on Clive, and I was like, well, that just doubles it up. So of course, he was done for. But I love that. I thought it was really cool the way they kind of built that up. And then, of course, he ends up watching Wally, which is a hilarious scene where he talked about Game of Thrones. And even when they show Clive and Wally was sleeping, he's just like, whoa. And all you hear is just horses and swords clashing. And he was just like completely involved. I thought that was really funny. But that was a good scene. And then, they go to the part where they took the picture. And so Clive was cooking and stuff like that. And that was the last time that they'd actually seen each other, because that's when things got really intense for Clive when he was going undercover. And by the time he was finally able to, as he put it, come up for air, they'd already moved, and she'd already moved into her brother's place. So I thought they did a really great job with that, kind of flashing back to his time with them and how he was so close to them. And it wasn't just kind of how they vaguely put it in the last episode. It was like, yeah, they used to live next door. And it was just like, okay, so he knew the kid next door, or whatever, random things. And I was like, okay, that's actually kind of cool. And then it was much more serious than that. And so now he still has this, desire to get revenge for this woman that he really cared about, and this young boy that he cared about for, this odd period of time in his life where he couldn't be there to help them or kind of transition to the next part of their lives with them because he was undercover and he just, he lost track of them. So I thought that was really good. I just love the way they did that. So I really enjoyed how they went about his story. And, like I said, I thought the comedy was pretty good. I actually thought the main case was pretty good, too, where they're just a lot, like, everybody was kind of bad in that. Like, for the young girl, she was sleeping with her mother's husband, or it was her stepdad, and, of course, he's sleeping with an underage girl, which it didn't make any sense. The mother was, like, really crazy because she went and killed her daughter's friend and her daughter's friend's father because she didn't want them to kind of find out everything that happened. And it was just like, man, why in the world would she kill? Like, she went after all the wrong people, and it was because of news. Like, that was why she did that. It was like, that was her idea, was to do it because of news, as if that wouldn't have gotten out anyway. That's why the guy was being picked up, because of course he took off because he was just like, oh crap, they're gonna come after me for sexual assault. And I'm like, okay, well, that would still be in the news. Like that in itself is all it takes. Like, that would still be, you're in the news. Well, maybe not her daughter, but she would. Or, I don't know how that all works out. I know they don't do underage children in the news for their names, but people would probably know. If they did his name, they'd be like, oh, it's that person. Like, that would be in the news no matter what. But it was just crazy. Like, we find out all this weird stuff as, the memories start, floating in. And, it's like issues back and forth between the girls. And it's like, okay, did the young girl do it? Did the father do it? Which seemed to be the likely case, especially when he took off. And it was like, okay. And as soon as they got into the interrogation room, and so I hope he comes back. But the super silly freaking like IT guy who was on the phone, he was hilarious. Like he comes in, and I of course didn't expect him to be the IT guy. I thought something weird was happening, but he comes in and he's super like, it's not emo, but he's almost like a satanic person. Like, in the way he speaks is almost like he's just full on Dracula mode. Hilarious. So I hope we get to see a lot more of him, because he was really funny, and just the way he was speaking was just like, nobody. Why was he doing that? So love that character. Really, really funny. But as soon as he mentioned that it didn't, the girls going back and forth didn't necessarily have to be the only way for one of the parents to find out, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then they mentioned the spy app, and I was like, oh, that wasn't her stepdad. Like, he was sleeping with her. Why would he give a crap? I was like, as soon as they mentioned that, I was like, there's no way that the dude who's sleeping with the underage girl is going to be in her business like that. It was her mom. And of course, that's what happened. And we find out that it was her mother. And she killed these two people so that they wouldn't go to the police, because she was freaked out about it being in the news. So that was just really insane. And of course, she goes to jail for murder. The other guy, who skips town, of course, for sexual assault, for statutory rape, he does end up being busted, and that's where we actually come, it all comes together at the end of the episode, where we find out that that's when Clive was actually being questioned. So, really crazy story. It's just one of those ones where it was just like everyone in the situation was kind of bad. So it was just really nuts, kind of the way it kept playing out. But it certainly led to some funny stuff, admittedly, with Major, him being on the teenage girl brains, and Liv like fixing everything and calling everybody sport and buddy and stuff. She did end up helping Robbie out a little bit, where he's still having his issues with his really strained relationship at this point with Peyton. So that'll be, I would assume, a chunk of the next episode, especially since they're bringing back Blaine. Also his father, so that should be something, and they actually talk with each other, and of course Blaine doesn't have memories, maybe, so we'll see how that plays out. But definitely good. They certainly introduced something very interesting with the mashed up mixed brains, where it allows people to not get any personalities of any of the brains, because it's all a bunch of little, it's so minute. I guess that's why they don't get any personality changes or flashes or anything. So I was like, okay, that's a really cool concept. So we might get to see Major do that in the far future, because of course we find out in the next episode that he is getting sick, so they have to figure out what's going to happen with his cure. Is he going to forget everyone? Is he going to forget about the whole zombie thing? A lot of elements to that. Robbie has to kind of ramp things up and maybe find a cure, or find a way to get rid of the memory loss, side effects of the cure. But I mentioned last time, maybe something will happen, and he ends up having to take the cure anyway, and he's like, I remember everything. And that's when we find out that Blaine has been lying this whole time. So it's still up in the air. You never really know. They might try to do it, and then it's just like, sorry, we have to at least save your life. We'll help you learn this all over again, but I'd rather have that than have you melt into mush and die. So who knows? That could be down the pipeline. That might be what happens. It might not be what happens, and it could be legitimate memory loss. But we just have to wait and see on that. But I certainly enjoyed this episode. Really good emotional side for Clive, and I'm excited to see where they go. I mean, he still has like this, set of revenge. That's what he wants to do, is get revenge for, this boy and this woman that he actually cared for during this, former part of his life. So I'm looking forward to how that's going to play out. And now that we have the crazy news at the end of the episode, where there are a ton of people that actually know about zombies, and they even the guy who posted, who lived next door to them, he was hacked, and somebody traced his IP, and we're like, okay, zombies live here. There are forums, and people know about zombies and know about brains in the trash and things like that, and the show that they talk about that it actually leads them to the neighbor. So there are a ton of people. There are message boards where they know how to find zombies. If there's where zombie lives, post it here. So it's going to get really crazy. And I feel like the person that actually did this at some point has to become an important character, because that was a professional thing. That wasn't like, oh, I'm someone that hates zombies, or I'm freaking out that they're zombies. That's someone who knew how to kill people. And, they took on, 3 people? It was Wally, his mother, and then his uncle. It's like, that's a pretty big deal to take on 2 full-grown people and do it in that sort of way. So it's probably not one person. It's probably a team of people, and it was almost like a strike team against zombies. So that says a lot. Like the way that they killed them and took their nails, and there was like basically no blood. That says a lot. So I feel like, we aren't getting the reveal as to who these people are, but I feel like it's a whole other organization. I know it starts from, this little this forum against zombies, but I feel like the people that are actually executing it have to have some actual skill. So we'll see where this ends. I don't know if we're going towards full-on zombie v human war, but obviously, the zombies are training. We got people, humans that are training. I'm looking forward to where we're headed, but of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And now that it's been revealed that there is this message forum for humans kind of, releasing all the facts about zombies in the area, how much time do we have before we do see some, full-scale attacks? I mean, people are getting close to the truth constantly. Like, even in this episode, Kavanaugh's just rattling things off. It's like, man, that's crazy. Not a lot of blood. The Max Rager in the pocket and things like that, and the brains, and the Emmy from the last episode was like, man, doesn't this body look like the tissue is way older? So there are a lot of people just finding out random things, and it's kind of easy for them to put it together. So we'd love to know how long you guys think we have before we do end up getting to like a full-scale zombie versus human war. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.